we're going to go through a simple VBuilder project to kind of introduce you to VBuilder and just get you more familiar with the tools. So the first thing we do is we'll create a new project, which you can do with this button here. And it'll give you a couple options here. You can either make it as a flowchart or as a ladder logic project. And when people ask us, we always recommend flowcharting. We found it to be much easier to follow the logic, and generally we can get things done a lot quicker in flowcharting. We do have ladder logic available. If that's something you're more familiar with and would like to stick with it, it's there. But we'd recommend at some point you give the flowcharting a try. I think you'll like it. You select the path you want your project, and generally just leave this box checked. So I'm going to just go with OK on that. And the next thing you do is you set up your hardware. So if you don't have your hardware yet, you can select the manual. And if it's just a single PLC system, you select whatever it is. If you've got expansions and you're using branch system, you can go ahead and add on to it. You can create your tree however you're planning on using it. If you do already have your hardware, once you've got it all plugged up, you can hit this auto setup, and it'll go out and ask the PLC, what its system consists of. And in this case, I've just got one branch. It's a 221. So I'm going to go ahead and hit next, and it'll give you a couple options here, but we're not going to deal with them at the moment. So we're going to go till we get to done. Okay, now it shows you what hardware is here. If we happen to have a larger branch system, it would show you it all treed out, however you structured it. Now we're going to go ahead, and the application we're going to create is going to be a real simple one. We're just going to check an input bit, and if it's on, we'll turn on an output bit, and if it is off, we'll turn that output bit off. So the first thing to know is when you created when you selected your hardware, it went ahead and created some tags for you, and you see this tag tool right here. I just clicked it. It's where you can find all the tags or addresses that you're using, and under the input and outputs, you can see the ones that are physically connected to the boards. Here's my input bits. In my case, I've got 12 input bits, I've got 12 output bits, and I've got 6 input analogs. And they come pre-named, but it's you're welcome to change these. I'm gonna use one for this example. I'm gonna call it my input bit is what I'm going to call it, and it shows you which signal it's actually connected to. So this one happens to be C1. Most of our PLCs have an input bit on C1. And I'll use this D1 for our output. I'll just call it light. And when you make adjustments there, if you hit OK, that'll save your changes. There's also all your internal registers that are just inside the PLC. You're using them for different logic. They're all right here. You see one, it happens to be automatically created with every project, and it's used for vFactory, but you're free to create more. Just go ahead and type in the name, and you can tell if it's an array and what size it is, and you can give it permissions like remote writable. But that's available there. So we're just going to check if an input, the input that I just renamed to input, or input bit, I think, we're going to check if it's on. So right over here, all these small tools here, those are all your decision blocks, and they ask a question. So in this case, I'm asking, is something on? And I go to input bit, that's the one we called it. But if you wanted to search through it with that tags tool, you just click this to the left, and it'll bring it up, and you can then go ahead and click on whichever one you're wanting to use to select it. So we're asking, is it on? And we're going to do two things. If it's on, we're going to turn that light, what we call light, on. So all these larger things here do things. This one turns things on. There's other ones that are calculators, and They can produce PWMs and move motors and all kinds of other things. But right now we're just doing a real simple one that turns something on. So we'll select a light, and we'll leave this on selected. And then I'm going to do a Control C, which is a copy function, but I could just as easily drop another one on here and select it. And I'll go into it, and in this case I'm turning something off, so I'm gonna select that. Now we need to tell the program how to flow through, what order we want things done. So the way we do that is we wire things up. So we say from start we want to go down to this decision block, and then the decision blocks always have two exit points. They've got a what to do if it's yes to whatever question was answered, and what to do if it's no. So when you wire them up, it'll ask you a question. Are you wanting the yes side or the no side? And in this case, we're wanting if the input bit is on, the yes answer to that, then turn the light on. And if it's off, it'll do the no path. So you see the yes and the no path. And now we need to tell the program what to do when it gets done with this. So we're going to go ahead and wire up. We use this wire router. It doesn't do anything functionally, but it does make our connections look nicer. Our wires. There's some times where they won't look as good. They'll go through another function, something like this. This helps keep everything nice and orderly. So we tell these to go from the turning things on or off, go back around to the beginning and start over again. If you were to not connect any items, if you didn't tell it where to go afterwards and it executed that step, the next thing it would do is it would return to the very beginning of your program and it would start your program from the beginning. And there's sometimes that's fine, but there's sometimes that's a behavior that you're not wanting. So just be aware of that. Okay, so we've got our program. It does what we want. Maybe we'll add a little note here that describes what we want. Turns on a light on an input. I'm a little bit off screen here. Okay, I just typed in turns on a light based on an input, and you can add these little arrows which help you kind of point to where the note is pertinent. In this case, it's the whole application, so it doesn't really matter. But okay, so I will now program it by pressing this V button, and I'm going to go to the debug mode, which you press this little ladybug guy, and now I'm going to switch to the name value mode, and what that does is that that toggles between the name and what the values are inside the registers themselves. And I've got a simulator board here I'm doing this on, so you can see I'm toggling the switch. You can hear me toggling the switch. I'm changing this input from to on now and then back to off, so you can see how that's going. But as I step through, I'm going to use a step in function. You'll see what paths it takes. So it just asked, is it on? And its value was 0, so that's not an on. So it's going to go to the no path, and it'll go here. And if we step it again, it'll go back to the beginning. That's because the wire router, since it doesn't logically do anything, it just skips that and it goes to the next state, which is right here. Now if I turn this bit on, you'll see it'll take the other path, and as soon as I've executed this, you'll see this output is now on. It just executed that, and if I look at my simulator, I see the light's now on there. And you can have this just full-on run mode. You can exit. We're not stepping anymore, just letting it run, and you can see that whenever I turn this on, you can see immediately that output goes on, and vice versa. Whenever you want to deploy your PLC, what you're going to do is you're going to make sure you program it by pressing the V, and then you hit run. Sometimes people program it and they forget to hit run, and then they wonder why their application doesn't start up right away. As soon as you've pushed the program button, it's in stop mode when it's done there, and you need to make sure to go ahead and tell it to start running, and then you can take the power off. You can bring it wherever you need, and it'll do its thing. So I think that's probably sufficient to get you started at least, and we'll have more videos for you.